very, very much for fighting the elements and coming out this evening. We're also being televised, I understand, so hopefully there are people who weren't quite as hardy as you all can also see what's going on this evening. Our thanks to the Assabet Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Revitalized Maynard Collaborative for putting this thing together this evening. We had one before the last election, and it was well attended and well thought of, so I'm sure this one will be as well. Each candidate will have the opportunity to present a 2-minute opening statement. We've numbered them 1 through 5. They actually have a name, obviously, and they'll introduce themselves. There are 2 open seats for the Board of Selectmen, and each candidate will identify which seat they are running for, so you'll know. We're going to take your questions, and we'll work them in as we can. We probably are limited by time constraints to perhaps 5 or 6, maybe 7 if we're really lucky. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement and a 2-minute close, and be allowed 2 minutes to answer each question. We'll start off going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll go 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And if I don't get too confused, we might just possibly manage to keep that operational till we get to the end. We have some folks out in front here who are going to wave some cards at the candidates, a white card. We'll say that they have 30 seconds rather. Boy, this will be over fast. And an orange card will say 10 seconds, and a red stop sign says you ran out of time, and I'm going to give you 5 seconds past that point to get through with what we had to say, and then I'm going to take my hook and pull them off. So that's the way we're going to run. When we get to the closing statement, I'll ask each candidate to re-identify themselves, just so if you're taking notes, you can. First of all, my name is Jim Coleman. I'm the town moderator, and I urge all of you to join me next Monday evening at the Fowler School, where we will have a special town meeting. I look forward to seeing you all there. All right, let's get started here. Number 1, will you get up and introduce yourself and make an opening statement? Mr. DeSilva.
My name is Chris DeSilva. I've been a Maynard resident for 24 years. My wife and I moved here 24 years ago. We raised our 2 children here. They went through the Maynard public schools. Both children did quite well in Maynard, and mostly because of the Maynard schools. They both went on to college, graduated with honors, and they're both now out in the world working. And my daughter is actually working at the middle school as a building substitute. I'm here for the term that expires in 2016. It was voted in 2013, and that's why I'm here. I think that the reason I'm running for this position is because I think that I have the time now that I can dedicate to it. I have the enthusiasm for the town of Maynard. It's a place that when I bought my house, I really didn't think I would be here for 24 years. I thought it was going to be a stop off to go back to where my wife and I both grew up. But after a few years, we just stayed, never left, and we love the town. We love the people in the town, and I think it's time for me to give back a little bit to the town of Maynard, because it's given my wife and I and my kids quite a bit. So that's why I'm here. In the past, I served on 2 terms of the Town Finance Committee quite some time ago. I see a few people in the room that I served on that committee with. So I have experience in the town government. I was also served on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club when it got restarted back in the late 90s. And I was also a Board of Governor member and the treasurer of the Maynard Country Club for several years, up until the time it was sold to the town. So, and those are my short list of qualifications.
Thank you, Mr. DeSilva. Mr. Estabrook, you're number 2. Would you give your opening statement, please.
Thank you. So I wanted to thank also the Chamber of Commerce and Revitalize Maynard for holding this event. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and responding to them. So my name is Ken Estabrook. I'm also running for the term that ends in 2016. My wife and I moved here in 2008 with our two daughters. I joined the planning board, served on that for 3 years, and then ran for school committee and was elected there, and then re-elected just this past May to that. I'm running for Selectmen because there are 2 openings, and I'm interested in making sure that the Board of Selectmen has experienced people on it, a full board of experienced people to move the town forward, to continue to move the town forward. I believe that I can bring the experience that I've had over the past 6 years to the board, and so that's the reason why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook. Chair number 3, Ms. Dayhill.
Hi, my name is Diane Dayhill. I've been in Maynard for 53 years. I came when I was 2. I graduated from the Maynard High School. I went directly into pharmacy school and then finished up with a master's in tox and a doctorate in pharmacy. I've served on many civic boards in the town. I've been on the finance committee. I was on the insurance subcommittee here. I worked on the CPC. I'm also part of the Maynard High School site board, where we look at different things in the school to try to improve the curriculum and things in the town. I work in the Veterans Advocacy Group, where I look at drug regimens and try to help the veterans, not just from the previous wars, but from back to Vietnam, to help them with their medication regimen reviews. And I also was a founder and a board member for Remembering Maynard's Own, and we pay activity fees for the kids in the high school that can't afford them. In terms of my background, I've worked for many of the major medical centers in Boston and in Florida, where we are constantly being hit with budget crises, but yet be told that we have to improve educationally. I've also worked for Big Pharma. We all know what that's all about. But one of the things that we do is we have to make sure that there's accountability and stuff stays on project time and within budget. So that being said, I love the people in the town. The town is a town, but it's the people that make up the town. That's why I'm here. 129 Parker, the budget, and the fact that many people feel that they need to leave the town because of taxes, and that's just heartbreaking.
Thank you, Ms. Dayhill. We'll move to number 4, Ms. Cryan.
Hi, my name is Megan Cryan, and I am running for the remainder of the 2012 term. I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts. I went to school at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I graduated from WPI with honors with a Bachelor of Science in Theater Technology and with minors in Physics and Electrical Engineering. I have 4 children. They all go to Green Meadow Elementary. They're 9, 7, and 4-year-old twins. So I do a lot of work in the community. I do a lot of volunteer work. I was president of the Maynard Family Association for 3 years. I also work with the Green Meadow PTO and with the school itself. I help with the Litter League, with Maydog, with the community gardeners. I have buckets downtown. I was a Little League coach. I was a Girl Scout leader, and now I am a 4-H club leader. And very much if there's a job to do, I'll do it. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to run. I wanted to help out, but I also want to make sure the town goes in the right direction. I want to make sure that we have excellent small businesses, wonderful schools, that the town environment stays safe and healthy, that we don't become overcrowded, and also that we don't overtax our natural resources. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cryan. And Mr. Egan, number 5.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tim Egan. I'm running for the short term that ends in June. So some of you are probably saying, why am I here? Why am I running? Well, for starters, my roots are in this town. I've been here for 23 years. I've been through the school system. My sisters are in the school system right now. My parents are here. My grandparents are here. And I really think it's time for me to give back to the town that's given me so much. Well, it's my second run through this. It's almost one last time. I'm here to give it my all once again. This town is in a critical time period. We still have much to accomplish. And it all starts at the top. Starts with the new board that's fully elected. I'm here to, I know I can provide that leadership, because it's the leadership and the direction of the board that will come together to make the decisions as we move forward down the line. So hopefully I can answer some of your questions here tonight to the best of my ability, and I look forward to hearing your guys' opinion on the campaign trail as we wrap this up. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. All right, now we're going to start off one step forward. So Mr. Estabrook will start off with the first question, and we'll go up the line. Mr. Hill 2, Ms. Cryan 3, Mr. Egan 4, and Mr. De Silva, you'll follow at number 5. All right, first question, and this is an audience question, and an interesting one. What is your position on equalizing commercial and residential tax rates? Now, I'm going to repeat it again so you can think a little bit here. What is your position on equalizing commercial and residential tax rates? Mr. Estabrook, you kick it off.
So with the split tax rate, there's many people feel as though that shifts a lot of the burden onto the businesses. I think that was done for a reason to actually move it towards businesses, the tax burden, and to shift some of it off of the residences. I think there's also now at this point many who feel as though that is a disincentive for businesses to move into Maynard. I guess my position is that to the extent to which a split tax rate does act as a disincentive, I think we ought to make adjustments on that. But I think the split tax rate does achieve some of the things that it was set out to do. And so I guess what I would say is it's something that we're working towards, is equalizing it. I think that's worth doing. But I also want to take a look at making sure that we don't shift too much burden onto the residential taxpayers.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook. We'll move on to Ms. Dayhill, and I'll repeat the question just to give you a moment to think about it. What is your position on equalizing commercial and residential tax rates?
I think the first thing that has to happen is that we have to get as much of the commercialized areas filled. So we need to bring industry, we need to bring businesses into the town. Once that happens, then I think you need to look at the taxes again and see if you can bring the commercial amount down so that you're not making them pay all of it. I don't know if there's a time that you would ever equalize it. I really would want more time to think about it than just now. There's a lot that goes into that. How much water do the different places use? What do they add to the carbon footprint? I think just to say equalize it is just really easy. You really need to look at what you have in the town. But the first thing is filling the town. We have to get the residents to be comfortable. We need to bring business in.
Thank you, Ms. Dayhill. Ms. Cryan, the question again is, what is your position on equalizing commercial and residential tax rates?
Well, I think it would be nice to decrease the commercial rate for a little while, at least until we get more businesses in town. I hate to sneak them in with low rates and then increase them, but I think it's going to be really hard to get any new businesses in town with high tax rates. But, you know, taxes are important, and I know no one likes taxes. I like taxes. If you want to have a nice town, you got to pay taxes. That's how America works. So I know people get frustrated, and, you know, it would be nice if more people paid their fair share in different ways, but, so, thank you.
Mr. Egan, once again, what is your position on equalizing commercial and residential tax rates?
Well, tax rates are an issue in this town, and a lot of people are concerned about it. Some people would like to move out of the town because of the tax rates. But in order to fully grasp the concept of that question, I would have to learn more about our budget and learn more about what we have and to offer in the room. And again, we do have to fill the remaining space, bring more businesses into town before we can assess what needs to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. De Silva, you get the last shot at this one here. What is your position on equalizing commercial and residential tax rates, please?
I think the split tax rate it's there for a reason. We've needed it. We'll continue to need it to some level, but we need to incentivize businesses to come to Maynard. Maynard is an extreme disadvantage in our location in that we're almost an equidistance from 128 and 495. And anybody that's driven 128 and 495, you'll realize it. There's plenty of open space, open buildings, and open offices on those roadways for people to go and settle their business in. You know, it's tough to get to Maynard, and it's tough to get to Maynard during workday hours. 8 and 4, getting in and out of Maynard, up and down 117 and 62 is a tough ride. We have to do something in this town to incentivize and aggressively pursue business to get them in here, to come here and fill the empty buildings. We've got beautiful buildings, a nice downtown, and a good way, you know, good way of life in Maynard. And we're not going to be able to maintain it unless we can get people to come in here. And if that means that we have to drop some of that tax burden from the businesses and pick it up ourselves, it's going to come back and benefit us in the end, because those people are going to come to town, they're going to live in the town, they're going to spend money in the town, and just going to bolster our economy. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think it's something that we have to address and something that we can't continually pound the businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, we're going to kick off with you as number one, and here is your question. Are there any recent, and recent meaning the last 5 years, decisions or actions by the Board of Selectmen that you would change? Would you like me to repeat that?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you. 129 Parker, for many reasons. I think, and not for the reasons, individual reasons for the people on the board. I think it was a shame that we eliminated people from our board that we voted on, voted them into office to represent us, and they were taken out of the mix by 129 Parker to be able to give an opinion on that so that it was more in tune with what people wanted. I don't blame that on the board, but I would have liked to have seen more cohesiveness from the board and saying, we're not going to do this. I would like to see the board acting more cohesive, more respectful, more trustful, more transparency. One of the things at 129 Parker, when we had the vote in that hot day in the summer, was watching people trying to really grapple with the information so that they can make an educated vote. I know you can watch stuff on TV, but there's a lot of stuff sometimes that happens in the background. And I'd like to see some way to get the information more to the people so that when you go to a town meeting, you're making an education, a vote with it, and knowing what you're voting on. Some of that had to do with, there was information that came out from the pro side that was almost intimidating. We don't need that. We want an open discussion with 129 Parker. We want something in there. The businesses downtown want something in there. The residents want something in there. It's time to put the swords down and come up with a plan.
Thank you, Ms. Dayhill. Ms. Cryan, you'll be next, and I'm going to repeat the question. Are there any recent, over the last 5 years, decisions or actions by the Board of Selectmen that you would change?
I think I'm approaching the 5-year cutoff. It might be 6, but I was really upset when at 129 Parker, before this whole the developer comes in, they want Walmart. Way before that, like 8 years ago, we voted for a grocery store and when we first approved the zoning changes. And I was so excited, and then I actually live right near there, and we were supposed to get a 24-hour price chopper. And I was like, yes, that is awesome. I am super excited. And you know, I think a lot of people in town were excited, and somebody on Field Street decided to sue the Board of Selectmen. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And I feel like the board caved, and they said, fine, we won't do it. And it disappeared. And, you know, we could have had a really nice grocery store many years already now. So that disappointed me.
Thank you. Mr. Egan, you're next. And again, the question, are there any recent, over the last 5 years, decisions or actions by the Board of Selectmen that you would change?
Well, how Parker Street's being handled. Again, it's unfortunate that 2 board members had to leave based upon not being able to agree to disagree. And again, leadership is important. For the board to come together and handle a situation, how it was handled was pretty bad in my eyes. And a lot of the town disagrees as well with it. And it's our job, or the new people coming in onto the board, to find a solution and work together to make sure that this doesn't happen again, because future projects need to be accomplished, and we can go back, we can look at this, and we can hopefully learn from it.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. We're going to move down now to Mr. De Silva. And again, the question, are there any recent, over the last 5 years, decisions or actions by the Board of Selectmen that you would change?
I guess I could say 129 Parker, but that would be kind of redundant. But it seems to be the sword that hangs over the town of Maynard for the past several years. But I think that to not be a part of every decision and involved in every decision and in the room for the decisions that were made and the reasons that they were made, I would think the biggest disappointment that I have as a person who's watched and seen what's been going on is that the lack, as someone else has mentioned, the lack of communication, the lack of collaboration and fair play within the selectmen room seems to be a bit disappointing. I guess you can run a business any way you want to run a business in the town of Maynard. Is, whether we like it or not, running the town is a business, and to act that way and treat each other the way that the people were treated on several different nights that the Board of Selectmen met was just very disappointing as a person in town. And it's the main reason why I decided to go for this, because it's just not the way to run a business, and it's totally unacceptable.
Thank you, Mr. De Silva. Mr. Estabrook, you get the last of this series of questions. And again, are there any recent, over the last 5 years, decisions or actions by the Board of Selectmen that you would change?
So I'll agree. I think 129 Parker Street is the thing that the decision that most heavily weighs on the record of the Board of Selectmen during that time. Having said that, I think we have to keep in mind that the volunteers that man our boards, they're just that. They're volunteers, and they're doing the best that they can. And it's easy in hindsight to look at particular things and say, well, geez, if we had just done this or done that, it would have been much easier. I think there's one particular point at which 129 Parker Street sort of went off the rails, and that's the Board of Selectmen have a role to educate the citizens of Maynard about what the impacts of these decisions are. And that's a very active role, a very public role, a very transparent role. But it's easy to sit there and say, well, there wasn't transparency. There's a tension between the transparency that goes on, that has to go on with the citizenry, and the negotiations that go on with the property owner, and not all of those can always be open. We place people in very difficult positions to do those kinds of things. I would have preferred to see more professionals brought in. We have since changed that by the addition of a planner to the town staff. I wrote the 129 Parker Street decision. I wrote it myself because we didn't have a planner. We now have a lawyer who also serves with the town administration, and I'm glad to see that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook. We'll be starting the next series of questions with Ms. Cryan. And here is your question for the 5 of you. How do you see the allocation of resources, money, to the schools versus other town services? And I'll repeat that again. How do you see the allocation of resources, money, to schools versus other town services. And Ms. Cryan, you've got the first shot.
Well, we spend a lot of our budget on the schools, and I think that's really, really important, because you can't have a good town if you don't have good schools. Everyone will leave, which I have all my 4 children go to Green Meadow, and I'm already seeing people leaving to go to Acton, to go to Sudbury, to go to Bolton and Stowe, and it makes me really sad. And I think schools are just really important. But I think there are things that we could do to definitely cut back on expenses. I mean, obviously don't want to cut teachers or teacher salaries, but little things like turning down the air conditioning and the heat. If you've ever been into Green Meadow in the winter, it can be like 1,000 degrees. So not only is it uncomfortable for everyone, but it's a waste of money. And the same with Fowler. I was there for the school committee meeting, and I thought I was going to freeze to death. And it was September. And so not only is it uncomfortable, but it's a waste of money. So I think there are a lot of little things we can do that would help cut expenses, but still keep good quality schools.
Thank you. Mr. Egan, you have it again. And how do you see the allocation of resources, money, to schools versus other town services?
This is Maynard Town Services, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Well, most of the budget does in fact go to our schools, and we have 3 schools for all ages, and the schools are vital to the community of Maynard. I've got to go through them, my family's gone through them, and the programs that they have to offer are incredible. They provide so much opportunity, they help get kids through school, and then when you get to college, you can take what you've learned here and apply them elsewhere. And hopefully when you graduate college, you take that and where the kids end up. I came back here and I'm contributing to the town. That's vital in my eyes. So all the money that we use on the schools is crucial. Town services, I know most people would like to see that downtown look better, revamped. And as part of the Community Preservation Committee, I am in fact able to go through the proposal cycle for the money we are given by the state and apply the money towards future projects. And those projects are there to better the community and help downtown look better. So overall, the schools do deserve the money that they get.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Pass it down. Mr. De Silva, again, how do you see the allocation of resources, money, to schools versus other town services?
I see the allocation of the money to the schools in the town of Maynard to be right on line and similar to the towns that surround us, and in fact to the overall state budgets too. So when you start to talk about taking money from the schools, and allocating it other places, what good is that going to do? I think the school budget has become what it is, and as long as the town of Maynard is, putting kids out like Timmy Egan and like my kids and their friends and educating our children properly, I don't have a problem with allocating more than some people think is necessary for schools. So.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to move to Mr. Estabrook. And Mr. Estabrook, again, the question, how do you see the allocation of resources, money, to schools versus other town services?
I think that to draw a distinction between the schools where we have a moral obligation to provide education to the children in this town and the other services and somehow oppose those creates sort of a false sense of competition between the schools and other services. We need fire services, we need police, we need DPW, we need all the services that the town. And I think, long ago was the day that that it was easy to come up with cuts. The fact is all the easy cuts that could be made have been made. And it's going to take hard work by people who are experienced and have the insight around municipal budgets to make the kind of budget decisions that are necessary. Do we cut here? Do we increase taxes? Do we shift taxes around? Those are all incredibly complex decisions that are made by the town in town meeting, and they need to be explained by a board of selectmen who is able to come in and make those decisions. What is particularly difficult for Maynard is its size. We don't have the size that many towns have, and we are responsible for many of the services at the same kind of scale as big towns are. And that's where the difficulty comes in, and that's where you need to have, I believe, experienced people that are willing to take a look at these things and help.
Sources, money, to schools versus other town services.
So I agree with Ken that it seems to be the way that it's been set up, it's us against them. You're pitting two groups of people or two different sets of departments that we are mandated to have. The one thing I would start with, and I would go to our state senators and our congressmen and women, is to say enough with the unfunded mandates. If you're going to mandate something, then you give us the money to do it. What happens is the schools end up having to put stuff into place that's mandated with no way to do it. The other thing is to start looking at what we're outsourcing in the town. So there's a lot of different departments that we're outsourcing, and that's all well and good if it makes sense money-wise, but who's doing the day-to-day oversight? That's required. At the end of the day, we have to do whatever is mandated, and we're going to have to find a way to make it work. But I agree that it's time to put people that are better educated, have more experience in this, and can look at what is in the different budgets and say, we don't need this, we don't need that, hold off on this for a year, don't put this into play, let's pay for this first, get it off the taxpayer's plate, and then put something else, start something else once we've paid for something. So I think it's a bigger question than to just give buckets of money to one and the other and have people muddling along and not making what the requirements are that are necessary.
Thank you very much. Well, that takes us all through that particular series of questions, I believe. And we're going to start off the next series of questions with Mr. Egan as number one, and then go 2, 3, 4, 5 up the line. I've got to say, folks, you've come up with some really good questions tonight, and you're pushing these people right to the limit. And this one's probably going to do it just as well as all the others put together. The question is this: do you feel Maynard is in a strong financial position? If yes, why? If no, what recommendations do you have to strengthen the town's financial position? I'm going to repeat it. Do you feel Maynard is in a strong financial position? And if the answer is yes, why? If the answer is no, what recommendations do you have to strengthen the town's financial position? And Mr. Egan, we're going to start off with you.
Most people would say we're not in a good financial position. But from my perspective, just coming out of school, coming back to this town, I only see Maynard going up. We have a lot of great programs in place, and the people to do it, and the people to get the actions done. And we have a full board of selectmen. We can really get the ball rolling, and we can continue to grow the town from where we are now. Now, I may not have a financial background or background with handling big budgets, but just by the small portion that sample size I've seen on the CPC committee and trying to organize the buckets and working with the town accountant, I know we've had some rough town accountants in the past, but we are making progress, and I still see us as going up in the right direction.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go back down the line here with the mic to Mr. De Silva, who will be next up. And again, the question is, do you feel Maynard is in a strong financial position? If the answer is yes, why? If the answer is no, what recommendations do you have to strengthen the town's financial position? Mr. De Silva.
I do not think Maynard is in a strong financial position, and I do not think so based on the many of the things that we talked about tonight, specifically a lack of outside business in town or new business in town. We've got some properties that are vacant, and they're paying a lower tax rate because the businesses and the properties are undervalued. So we need to again incentivize business to come to town and raise the tax rate through those people. When you start to put new lights in, like the building down on Route 62 next to Wendy's, when that building's completed, there's going to be a different tax rate for that building because it's going to be at a higher value. We need to get all the buildings in town in that mode where we're renovating them to suit the modern businessmen and not the business people that were here in the past, because the older business model and the business model in the building in particular, the brick and mortar, doesn't work today. So we need to incentivize people to come to town, open businesses, and raise revenue for the town that way and put us in a stronger position. Obviously, with our tax rates, we are not in a strong financial position.
Thank you, Mr. De Silva. Mr. Estabrook, again, the question, do you feel Maynard is in a strong financial position? And if the answer is yes, why? And if the answer is no, what recommendation do you have to strengthen the town's financial position?
I think Maynard is in a strong position. That doesn't mean we're in the strong position that we need to be or that we can be. I feel as though if you take a look at the current town administration, they are paying attention to many of the things that they need to do to continue to put Maynard in that strong position. I think there are many things that we need to do over the next several years to put us in a stronger position. Certainly increasing the business base is an important part of that. I've worked hard, as many people have, to try to get a project into 129 Parker Street, but to do it in a way that brings in tax revenue more than increasing the burden on the town services. You know, as you bring in a business development like 129 Parker Street, there is going to be an increased burden on town services, whether it's the water and sewer or the police or what have you. If there's housing element there, then there may be an impact on the school. It takes dedicated effort to look at these issues, to make sure that any additional revenue that is brought in isn't just going out the other side in terms of increased expenditures. So I feel very confident about Maynard. It's one of the reasons why I moved here is the kinds of things that Maynard offers. I think we all love Maynard for those things that it offers, and I believe that we can make it a better place that it is now by bringing in additional businesses and bringing in additional tax revenues.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook. Ms. Dayhill, question again. Do you feel Maynard is in a strong financial position? And if the answer is yes, why? And if the answer is no, what recommendations do you have to strengthen the town's financial position?
So I think with the taxes that we have now, we have enough to run the town. What I would suggest doing is to really take a hard look at what we have projected for projects coming up and stagger them in terms of money. What do we need now? What is an absolute need and what's a nice to have? Those are two different things. We need to strengthen, or we need to focus on what we need to have. Again, outsourcing, I would look at that. Trying to bring commercial back into the town to help with 129 Parker Street, and keep in mind that if they tax the infrastructure, that they're going to get the bill. I think what you're seeing right now is that people can't pay anymore. We've all been asked to cut back. The businesses certainly have in the town. The residents in the town have cut back. You know, it would be nice to go on a Hawaiian vacation, but I settle for Rockport. Maybe that's what we need to look at. You know, really take a hard look at what we're putting out there. Put a bucket of money to the side in case some emergency comes up that we need to look at. But really start doing a budget like this was your money, and prioritize what we're going to spend it on.
Thank you, Ms. Dale. Ms. Cryan is the last word on this subject. And again, the question is, do you feel Maynard is in a strong financial position? If the answer is yes, why? And if the answer is no, what recommendation do you have to strengthen the town's financial position?
I think Maynard's financial position is, it's okay. We have a lot more debt than I would like to see. I hate debt. Debt is a waste of money because you're paying so much money on interest that is just, you shouldn't need to. So I would love to see the debt go down. I was looking at the proposed budget that we'll vote on at the next town meeting, and there's some things in there that are just seem shockingly expensive. The library, they need to repoint the bricks, and they need a new thermostat. They estimate repointing the bricks is going to be $400,000, and that the thermostat would be $10,000 to $15,000, and that seems outrageous. And I know that we spend money helping pay Assabet Valley, the vocational school, and I think maybe we could find a way to, have masons in training come and help repoint the library, just little things like that, some outside thinking. And also, I know our tax rate is a high percentage, but part of the reason because of that is our houses are affordable. So, if you took my house and put it across the line into Sudbury, it would triple in value, which is crazy. It makes no sense, but because we have a small town, if you ever look at a map of Maynard, like a quarter of it is green, which I love. I think that is amazing, but it cuts down on the number of houses that we have. So I think that's why the tax percentage rate is high, but I think it's important.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. De Silva is going to kick it off. And this is going to be an interesting question to follow up with what you've just heard from the candidates on the last several questions. The question is this: in your efforts at bringing growth to Maynard, how will you preserve our rural feel and our quality of life? I'll repeat that. In your efforts at bringing growth to Maynard, how will you preserve our rural feel and our quality of life? Mr. De Silva?
Who wrote that question?
I told you were going to like it.
I like that question. I think Maynard has been pretty successful in the past and in the present at maintaining a rural feel. When the mill was full several years ago, I don't think we lost anything of our rural feel. I think that Maynard's downtown, although in need of some revitalization, certainly helps us maintain that rural feel. And to Megan's point, there is still plenty of green space in town. There's still plenty of opportunity to enjoy the grass and the trees and the green and the blue sky in this town. So long as we don't allow it to overcome and overrun our rural feel, we shouldn't have a problem. I don't think that we have to go out of our way to do anything special. We just have to, maintain the aesthetics of the buildings in town and just keep an eye on the traffic flows and the number of spaces available for people to park cars downtown so that it doesn't overrun the downtown. And we'll maintain our rural feel for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. De Silva. We'll move on to Mr. Estabrook. And again, the question: in your efforts at bringing growth to Maynard, how will you preserve our rural feel and our quality of life?
So by rural feel, I think what we see is a village atmosphere. We take a look at the downtown that we love and say that's what we'd like to see more of. So in bringing in businesses, I'd like to see businesses brought into the downtown that are scaled and don't end up looking too large for the downtown. There are certainly places such as the Stratus property in the north side, 129 Harker Street, other places that we could have larger firms. But the downtown, I think, is very special, and we ought to make sure that the things that we bring in for that preserve that character. One of the things that I think we have to look at as we move forward is making sure that other things are preserved and using our knowledge of the laws to do that. An example would be traffic. If you take a look at 129 Parker Street, it's not so much this, it is the scale of that project that is scary, but what is even more so is the fact that it sits on a road that goes, is one lane each way. And if we are going to have development on there, it has to be development that that moves traffic through that area, onto the property, off of the property very smoothly. And so it takes hard work, takes knowledge of the laws that we have to make those projects happen. So I guess to answer directly, you take the laws that we have, the zoning bylaws, the other laws and regulations we have, and you use the knowledge of that to preserve the feel, and that takes active participation on the part of the Board of Selectmen to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook. Mr. Hill, the question. In your efforts at bringing growth to Maynard, how will you preserve our rural feel and our quality of life?
I think based on what we've looked at in terms of our plans of what we want to see in 129 Parker, how big, how small, that you would automatically not overgrow. So you don't want to have a situation like what happened in Framingham. Framingham, for all of you that are from this area, was a nice little 2-road. You went in and they had the Shoppers World. Overnight, and they were in a predicament similar to us, they started building, they didn't protect certain areas, and the next thing you know, they had a BJ's and a this and a that, and the taxes went down, but the value of the homes went down. A lot of people ended up moving out. So I think that we need to, there is a gentle balance between filling the front stores down in Maynard, keeping it a nice downtown area, the village kind of feel like you have in West Concord. They've revitalized their area. And then be careful as to what you put into places like 129 Parker. We don't want big box stores that are going to really destroy not just the downtown area, but maybe destroy the school area coming in and out of town. But there is a right thing there. We all want a grocery store. I love a pet store. I'll do anything that I don't have to go out of town to get dog food. You know, there are things that you could put in there that the town could support that wouldn't destroy the feel of the town and would allow tax dollars and still have the downtown area to go for your strolls, to go out to eat, and not become a Framingham.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Ms. Cryan, the question. In your efforts at bringing growth to Maynard, how will you preserve our rural feel and our quality of life?
I love to think of Maynard as rural. I never really thought of it that way. I grew up in Lowell, so Maynard is definitely more rural than that, but I like it. I think the co-op, and hopefully you're all members, but the co-op is coming to downtown. I think that'll be huge for downtown, keeping that downtown feel, but giving us, you know, a store that we need to shop at. And I think adding more things like that, maybe a toy store, just the little stuff. Like, you know, you might need something and you think, oh, I have to drive all the way out to, you know, Framingham or Hudson to get it. And, you know, just to have more stores in Maynard would be huge. But little ones. I don't want any big stores. I don't want a Walmart. I don't want a Target. I don't think it's a good fit for Maynard. And we're so far from a highway, it doesn't really make sense to have that here. I think it's very important that we don't cram all the houses in together. Lately, I've been seeing all the woods are getting torn down, and they're putting up, I call them mansions, but because they're out of my price range, but they build these huge houses with no yard, and it just is very upsetting. I know on Taylor Ave, I have a friend that used to live there, and there's this little triangle of land of woods, and they want to cram 6 houses in there. And it's crazy. And I don't know if you guys know the guy that used to have the sheep on Main Street. I love that house, and I love seeing the sheep. And now he's gone, and they want to make it into 4 condos. And I think we need to make sure things like that, you know, don't happen too much. And also, I think we should look into bringing a version of the Right to Farm bill to Maynard, which would allow people to have agriculture, and I think that would increase jobs and increase sustainability and definitely keep the rural feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cryan. Mr. Egan, you get last shot at this question. In your efforts at bringing growth to Maynard, how will you preserve our rural feel and our quality of life?
I feel that Maynard has done a good job of balancing what we do in terms of projects and preserving the open spaces that we have. all the parks that we revamped, the playgrounds, and keeping those easily accessible, as well as potential opportunity for growth, such as we have a decision on the golf course coming up, renewal of contract, if we're going to open up more services over there, more activity space. If we can keep open space such as the golf course easily accessible, we don't need to continue to build and build and build. I don't envision huge industry being in Maynard, the Targets, the Walmarts, such as that. I don't see that. We don't have enough space, in my mind. Housing is becoming a concern for me. I've seen all the apartment buildings going up. Something goes down, it looks like it might be housing. And we're very fortunate that the golf course is there in the first place, because we might be a huge industrial town, cramming for space at this point. And we're lucky that we are in the position we are in.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. All right, we're now going to move the mic down to Mr. Estabrook, who will kick us off. And we're going to shift gears a little bit. This question is going to move us in a little bit different direction. Mr. Estabrook, the question is this. The cultural district that the Maynard Cultural Council has been developing with the town would bring smart economic development to Maynard. What actions will you take to support the cultural district? Would you like me to repeat that?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I think one of the strengths that Maynard has is the arts and culture. We have art space and we have galleries downtown, and the scale of the stores down there would be very helpful, very conducive rather, to having Maynard known as an arts place. That would draw in, we could use that as a magnet to draw people in who would take a look at the galleries, take a look at other, we have the Fine Arts Theater, we could see movies there and so forth. Maynard could draw people in. And then you could see those people then, having finished those activities, moving on to restaurants to grab a bite to eat, or other stores. And so I would really embrace seeing the arts and culture become the theme for Maynard. And so I would certainly work towards that.
All right, Ms. Dayhill, the question again. The cultural district that the Maynard Cultural Council has been developing with the town would bring smart economic development to Maynard. What actions will you take to support the cultural district?
I think it should be supported. I think trying to get fine arts back up and running would be a huge bonus for Maynard. I know that there's people that come in that are friends of mine from Acton and Concord, and they would drop their kids off at the movie theater and they go out to eat. So that's a double whammy for us. We get the money on both ends, we keep them in the town. So now what has to happen to support them? Aside from money, are there other things that we can do to help the fine arts get up and moving? I know there's a storefront that they're talking about opening where some of the artisans are going to start selling some of their crafts downtown. That's huge. What can we do to help that? Can we have an art day where people put stuff out? Can we have, one of the things that was very successful that we did one April was that you went to the different locations and you get something signed, and you had a raffle to win, they had vases of flowers and stuff, and it got people into the stores. So you could do that with the other businesses downtown and with the artists, and the artists could give, whether it's flowers or something that they've made, to the different stores as a raffle or as an incentive to come in to the stores. It was a win-win. Everybody had a great time. The town was full. It brought business into all of the different businesses downtown. People had a great time. The downside of that was it rained later on, which is why I remember it, because I won 4 floral arrangements. But I think it was a great idea had we had better weather. So I think that's a start. That's a way to bring the businesses and the art together and let the town kind of enjoy it.
Ms. Cryan, the question again. Cultural district that the Maynard Cultural Council has been developing with the town would bring smart economic development to Maynard. What actions will you take to support the cultural district?
I am super excited about the cultural district. I think it is just a brilliant idea. I believe Elizabeth is the woman that's starting it, and it seems like an excellent thing to do. It doesn't really cost anything, and it's going to be super beneficial for the town. I love art space. My two oldest girls just had their first art class there today, and they loved it. It's such a great thing to have in town. I think a good way to increase cultural things is to have more events. I would love to see like they're crazy things, but like a maker fair or a pumpkin contest, a pumpkin float, or think how crazy people go for the swan boats downtown. We have that beautiful pond in the middle of town. If we had swan boats, everyone from all over would come, and it would be amazing. I think we could do a lot more cultural things. The community band downtown is great. Last year, my husband and I put on the Princess Bride movie the night after Maynard Fest, because there were no fireworks that night because they were the next week. But I think we could do more things like that just to draw people into the town. And once you get people in town, they spend money and they go out to dinner and they buy things and they remember to come back and then they want to live here, and then we're doing great. So I am super excited about the cultural district.
Thank you. And Mr. Egan, the question again. The cultural district that the Maynard Cultural Council has been developing with the town would bring smart economic development to Maynard. What actions will you take to support the cultural district?
Well, the cultural district is one of the positive programs that I've heard about coming to town, and I'm excited about it. I know there's plenty of opportunities I've seen art space in downtown, the pottery in the windows, and most of the stores I've seen is more art-based. But definitely event planning, we can work with the cultural district to expose younger generations to what the town has to offer. And if we can tie a little bit of Maynard history into that as well, I know most people aren't aware of the actual history of Maynard. I know I've learned a little bit working with a couple of historical commission people. And we have artifacts that we can put out on display. We can incorporate that into art space, holding events, working with others to place their goods on the streets for people to look at. It's just all part of that downtown feel we can maintain, and that's something that's going to be a positive moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. De Silva, you get to be the cleanup man on this one. The cultural district that the Maynard Cultural Council has been developing with the town would bring smart economic development to Maynard. What actions will you take to support the cultural district?
I think the cultural district is a great idea for the town, and I would take whatever actions were needed, were necessary or asked of me to be involved in something like that that brought something new to the town, something that would draw people to town. If you're familiar with art in other areas and places where there are art galleries and pottery shops and those type of things, you realize that nobody's in a rush in that world. They stroll downtown. They're not in a hurry. So if you're not in a hurry and you're strolling downtown, you're going to stroll by the other stores in town. You're going to stroll by the other galleries in town. It's a much slower pace. But the people that are here doing those things and looking at the art, they're enjoying the rest of our town, and they're getting to know our town, and they're going to spend money in our town. They're going to enjoy the town, and it's going to develop economics on its own. Just by the virtue of the stores, you will only have to have those stores in place, and the people that come to town to look at the art and enjoy the artwork of the people from Art Space and other people around town and from surrounding towns that would take part in that project, those people that would support them from outside are not going to be in a rush. They're going to spend more time in town, and they're going to spend more money and bolster our economy through that lack of hurried pace.
Thank you, Mr. De Silva. Well, folks, we have a mandate here to close this whole thing off in 75 minutes, and that's about, according to my watch, 16 minutes from now. Now, we don't have room for another 2-minute question for each of the candidates, but I got a doozy for them for a 1 minute. So with the timekeeper's permission and watching your clock, and with you folks being limited to discuss something in 1 minute, okay, we're going to kick off with Ms. Dayhill, who's holding the mic and knows she's going to be on the spot. And this one's a good one, and it's a good one to end with. Which issue are you most passionate about? Which issue are you most passionate about? Got a minute.
129 Parker, getting it filled, getting the taxes down for both business and residents.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Cryan, you got a minute.
I'm going to say the town environment, like the actual environment, the water supply, the air, pollution, noise pollution, traffic pollution. I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to make sure it all stays in check and we don't become, I want to stay the town that we are. I think it's a beautiful place and I'd like to keep it that way.
Thank you very much. Mr. Egan, 1 minute. Which issue are you most passionate about?
Putting Maynard back on the map, bringing in outside consumers. Maynard's got a tendency to be on the news for bad things, and I'm sick of seeing it. I'm sure other people are sick of seeing it. But I want, when someone to think of Maynard, I don't want them to go, oh, Maynard. I want them to go, oh, Maynard, yeah, they have this. Oh, Maynard, they have that. And I believe that we can move forward and we can get necessary resources, and we're going to put Maynard back on the map in a positive spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. De Silva, 1 minute for which issue are you most passionate about?
I'm most
We know
passionate
which
about
one
feeding
she
that
is.
baby. I think I'm most passionate about my quality of life and the quality of life of all the people in Maynard that I know, and maintaining that going forward. And so that when one of the questions that you guys had asked at some point, I think the Beacon asked us the question, what would I say to anybody that wanted to move to Maynard? And I said, come and stay a while, because it's a great town, and that's what my passion is. My passion is not one particular project, it's for the whole town.
And Mr. Estabrook gets the last word. Which issue are you most passionate about? In a minute.
If you think about the thing that we like most about Maynard, it's the village feel. It is the feeling of us being a part of a neighborhood together. I think the thing that I feel most passionate about is making sure that we make those decisions together about the things that will affect us. And whether we're talking about a cultural district or 129 Parker Street or the tax rate or what have you, what I'm most passionate about is making sure that we make those decisions together. And the Board of Selectmen have a responsibility to you all to learn what the issues are, to work with you to help everyone understand. It's never something about good versus bad. It's about different issues that have to be weighed. And that transparency and that education is an incredibly important part of the village field that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook, and that will conclude the question portion of our evening. I'd like to make a comment now before we move on to the closing statements. I think you all have just witnessed something that's rather unique and rather special. You've seen 5 politicians answer a question in under a minute. Remember, you saw it first here. Now, having said that, and also let me say thank you so much to these 5 very nice and very good candidates who have taken their time this evening to give us their feeling on our town, and it is our town. We've got a great town here. They've all said it. We all feel it. Whatever your choice is, come election night, you've heard 5 very nice candidates and very good people speak about how they feel. So, having said that, we're going to start off with Ms. Cryan making her closing statement. Somebody's got to do it, remember.
I want to thank everybody for coming. So I've talked to people and they get confused on who's running for what, so I just want to clarify that Diane, Tim, and I are running for a term, so you can pick one of us. And then these two are running for different terms. You pick one of them. So get that clear. But I think, you know, from what I've heard tonight, I think with the three of us, you're good. You're going to get somebody awesome. So I lost my train of thought. No, I am excited for Maynard, and I think this is going to be good. The term we're running for is only about 6 months long, so there's a lot of work for a 6-month term, but, you know, so no matter who you pick, it's not that long, and we'll just do this again in the spring. So, but I'd like to thank everybody, and, you know, if you have any questions for me, just, you know, find me after, or I have a Facebook page you can check out. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cryan. Mr. Egan, your closing statement, please.
Well, here we are, 2 weeks away from the big election, November 4th. It all comes down to you guys, the voters. We have 5 worthy candidates here tonight, and 2 of them are going to be elected to fill the vacancies. It's up to the Board of Selectmen to vote and improve, make decisions to better the town and the community we live in. And I just want everyone to know that I know I can be one of those leaders on the board and help us set us in the right direction. I hope to get your vote on November 4th, and have a Facebook page. Go check it out, Tim Egan, Maynard Selectmen. Just thank you all for coming here tonight. I'm free to answer any questions. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, just let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Estabrook?
It's my turn.
Oh, your turn. I'm sorry. I missed you completely,
It's
Mr.
okay.
De Silva.
We
Yes.
got you.
Oh, my gosh.
Well,
I
first of all,
apologize.
thank you to the moderator for coaching us along here this evening, and thank you to the Revitalize Maynard Collaborative and to the Chamber of Commerce for having us, and thank you to the 4 of you for sharing your information experience with all of us. It was very informative for me anyway, and I hope everyone else found it informative, and thanks for coming on a rainy night. I look forward to the opportunity, if given the opportunity, to serve the town of Maynard as a selectman. I think that my prior experience on the FinCom and other areas in town government here in Maynard and other places in my business will be a benefit to the town. I'd like to offer that benefit to the town and share that with the town to any extent possible. And I thank you all for your time and for listening to us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. De Silva, and I apologize again for missing you. Mr. Estabrook, you're number 4.
Yes, thanks to all of you for coming out and asking good questions. Thank Mr. Moderator for leading us through this. And thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and Revitalize Maynard for hosting this. As has been said already, if it was a matter of whether you could find a good person to occupy the selectman slots, you've got 5 people here to choose from. But the selectman position is a position that you need someone who is hitting the ground running, who understands the issues, who's been there already, working through the deliberative process to study the issues, to help educate people on what the issues are, and to make good decisions, and to then work with you all through the town meeting process to put those in place. I have experience on the planning board, on the school committee, and I hope to have experience now as your selectman to work towards that. And so I ask your vote on November 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Estabrook. And Ms. Dayhill, you get the last shot.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. It's a horrible night. I'm sure there's other places you'd want to be than sitting out here and going back out in the cold and the rain. I agree with everybody. I think that we're all sitting here because we all have a passion for making things better for the people in the town, and trying to have a vision where we're all working towards the same goal. I think we can do that. I think it would be very easy to do. I think we would need to ask for all the citizens to participate in this, because it's easy to sit and watch TV or listen to this and say, oh, I wouldn't have done that and I wouldn't have done that. Your part in this is that you have to let us know exactly what you want so that we can vote in the best interest for everybody. And I think that's the take home, that it's a process that we're all involved in, and that whoever you choose to represent you has that vision and is approachable to get your message across. It might be that they vote in a way that's not exactly what you want, but at least you know you've been heard, and I think that is the most important thing, and I think that's why we're all here. We want to be heard, we want to make the town work, and we want to stop losing businesses and people leaving town because they can't afford the taxes or they feel that it's just a lost cause. It's not. I think the 5 of us are here to tell you that we want to make it right.
Thank you, Ms. Dayhill. Well, on behalf of the Assabet Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Revitalize Maynard Collaborative, and I know all you folks sitting in the audience, very big thanks to the 5 people who put themselves in the spotlight. And again, in the form of a thank you to all of you who've come out to listen to these candidates, to be part of something that I've been proud to be part of for many, many years and hope to be for a lot more, and that's the town of Maynard. Thank you all, and see you all Monday night.